You will sleep better than you have ever slept. You've never been this relaxed. Are you ready to change your life? I'm Rusty Diamond, certified hypnotist. You don't need to leave your house. You can stay in your bed. You can stay in your favorite chair. You just need a computer or your phone. You can get a hold of me. Stay at home. I'll make your life better.
Hypnosisisgreat.com.
It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.
Yo, man. Boom, Miss Rusty. What is up, everyone? It is Friday. You know what that means. Everyone knows what Friday means. If you don't know what Friday means, you don't need to know what Friday means. Every day is the same. Every day is a good day, and that's what really matters. Because if it's not a good day, what are you doing here? Welcome to the podcast, the Pennsylvania Public Access Podcast. It's just the Public Access Podcast. So, yeah, thank you everyone for being here on the Rusty Diamond Podcast Network. That's what's up. Things are getting going. Things are getting moving. Why wouldn't they be? Except for this. This stuff isn't getting moving. This stuff is not moving. One day I will. I did get rid of one of those boxes. I need to sell this thing up here. You guys, I got an eBay store. Check out my eBay store. Buy stuff on my eBay store. Rusty Concepts. Check that out. I got a bunch of stuff before you can hit eBay too. Anyone's looking for bunch of records or some nudie magazines, I got those too. So there you go. So speaking of records and nudie magazines, let's go to something completely different. Maybe it isn't. We'll find out. I'm going to bring on my special guest right here, right now. And my special guest right here, right now is Justin L. Shaw. And here he is. There he is. Awesome.
Hey,
How you doing, Justin? Thank you for being here.
thank you for having me on. I'm super excited.
Me too. Okay, I'm looking in your background now. You got I don't want to make some sort of dick joke to start it off, but you have a Johnson, Big Johnson background, jersey right there.
Bird and
So
Johnson. Yeah. The
Bird and
Dream Team
Johnson.
was a big part of my childhood. I can tell you that.
Oh,
And then
wait.
the other thing, got one of my favorite movies,
Oh, okay. Wait. So hold on. What Johnson did you say?
Magic Johnson.
I think you said Irvin.
Oh no, yeah,
Irvin
Bird.
Johnson.
It's a
Bird
Bird and
and
Magic
Johnson.
Johnson. Yeah.
Okay, I
Dream
can't
Team.
see the bird. Bird and Johnson again, another two dick things. So that's good. So we're gonna start off with nothing but dick jokes. So
Okay, all right. I see where this is going. All right.
that's good. So 1992. I was talking about this on one of my other podcasts a while back, trying to remember all 12 members. And so I'm from Portland, and so it was a big deal getting because the number 11 and 12 people on there were they had to have the one guy from college, which was Christian Leitner, and then the 12th guy was Clyde Drexler, Clyde the
Glide to
Glide.
glide. Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so are you from LA or Boston, or are you just
No.
what? No.
I'm from Scottsdale, Arizona. Currently living in Sedona, but I just loved basketball. I loved the NBA growing up. It just was a huge part of my life. I lived in Boston for about a year as a child, but I'm definitely Arizona all the way. And
Okay.
it's kind of being an Arizona sports fan has done wonders for my humility. Let me tell you, because we we are the kings of losing. We have out of 50 years and 4 professional teams, we have 1 championship. So I've been very humbled by being an Arizona sports fan.
So was that did the Diamondbacks win one?
2001. Yep.
Okay, that's okay. I was trying to figure out what it was. Okay.
Yep,
And that was
Diamondbacks. I was outside the stadium when that happened. Not inside. I didn't have that kind of money, but I was outside the stadium, and boy, it was a great time.
yeah, I mean, what was that like? I had one where it was kind of the same. I was up in Seattle, and I think '05 when they made it to the Super Bowl. And then I was up there during their Super Bowl when they lost, or whatever it was, and then just like the difference between those 2 days. But so what was that like when you were outside that stadium? I mean,
Oh, it was, man, I can't even tell you the excitement, because like if you go back and watch that game 7, it was insane. Like we were behind. The Yankees call up Rivera, who's like the Sandman, lights out. Like everyone's standing around, like, all right, well, we should all just go home. Like, but all of a sudden, things start clicking, and like we get 1 run, and then we get another run, and all of a sudden, it's tied, and it's like this crazy stuff is happening. There's this intense excitement, all just in the air. And then Luis Gonzalez steps up to bat, and he just bloops this thing right to center field. The guy comes in, and like everyone just erupts outside of that stadium. Inside the stadium, it felt like an earthquake, man. Like it was intense. It was crazy. I was hugging strangers. I was high-fiving people. And it was really funny because at the time I was a freshman in college at Arizona State, and I went with my I was in the dorm at the time, and I went with my friend who was from New York. So he had all his Yankee gear on, and so we went together. And as we're walking back to the car, I'm going nuts. I'm high-fiving people, I'm hugging people, and he's just got this defeated. I mean, he's head down, like he's got his Yankee gear on, and he's just head down, just walking, and just like, it was a good time.
it's always good seeing I don't know. It's good seeing the Yankees lose, or I don't know. I'm always kind of happy with that one.
Always.
Uh, and because so this was 2001, and then this was right after baseball started right back up, right after, because I'm the same age as you, and so yes, like school had started down there. I had a buddy who was at down in Tucson at that time starting up, and so school started I think in the summer for you guys, and then or sometime maybe because like it started late September for me, and so like it was still summer when 9/11 happened, but for some reason I remember Yankees winning the World Series that year, but I guess I'm wrong. So Randy Johnson was pitching then too at that time, I
Yep.
believe, for the
Yep.
Diamondbacks.
Big unit. Yep. Yep. Kurt
Big
Schilling and
unit.
Randy Johnson, they were the co-MVPs.
Okay, the co-MVP. Okay, yeah, all right.
I
And
don't know how many times that's happened, but yeah, they were the co-MVPs.
I forgot about that. Yeah, and so I mean, yeah, getting to see that and be right there is pretty cool. Getting to have all that happen, and then yeah, man, I went to Yankee Stadium this last, I don't know, like back in July. I went there. It's pretty cool. Outside of there, there's like a little ballpark, um, for like kids to play on, like right outside the stadium.
Is there?
It's
I've never
yeah.
been there.
I I hadn't either. I was living in Connecticut, so I went over there one day, and it's like, oh, okay, I'll go to a game. But yeah, man. So you were in Arizona, and I mean, so man, I won't get in. There's a whole different story about with Arizona and me. Like just right after that, I had a A very eventful trip in like what was that? January of 2002. I took a trip from drove down to Portland and yeah, drove down to Arizona and got into some trouble down there. So yeah,
I got into some trouble in Arizona too. What do you know? We share that
yeah.
together as well.
Well, good. Not good, but um. So I mean, yeah. What? I don't know if you want to get into that or if you want to save that for something different.
Oh no, I'm an open book, man. I'll get into
Okay.
whatever
Well,
you want.
what happened in Arizona?
Oh man,
Or am
it's
I
it's
jumping right
it,
into it?
I've had a just an intensely crazy life. So you know it, the I kind of had a not not a great childhood. I don't want to blame my parents for anything, but just emotionally kind of neglectful. So that it created a lot of weird feelings in me, not hearing the word love or being hugged a lot and stuff. So like it just kind of created negative energy. I was usually a pretty good kid, but I felt it just created a lot of unworthiness. So in high school, I just, something clicked to where it was just like, I'm tired of no attention, and negative attention is better than no attention. So I just started acting out like crazy. So I started, I was kind of a late bloomer. I didn't start drinking or, smoking weed until about 17. I quit the football team because I wanted to be a full-time partier. So and I felt a lot of acceptance in my friend group because I wasn't feeling that at home at all. And one of the most addicting things I came into was I used to steal. I mean, I used to go to Safeway. I would load up a grocery cart full of alcohol and just walk out.
Oh
And
shit. Okay.
I would do this over and over. And I the high of having the kind of attention that you bring a bunch of alcohol and have a bunch. We'd find whoever's parents were gone, and we'd
Right.
go party at their house, and having the kind of attention that was like, this party is happening because of me, like that kind of attention. And being like, oh, like everyone's like toasting their drinks to you and being like, we'd have times where we just invite people over and drink for free. We'd have times where we'd charge people. But this became a thing. So like eventually, of course, you do it enough, you're gonna get caught. So
Right.
I got caught for that. I've been caught for like I've gotten DUIs in the past. I've never spent more than 24 hours in jail, but I've done 24 hours several times. So it just really snowballed into where I got into college. Somehow I got through college, but I graduated with a degree in communications and a nasty drug habit. This was at the time when the whole dope sick oxy Purdue Pharma thing was going on, and I had no idea what I was taking because my parents just they didn't prepare me for life. It was just kind of thrown to the wolves a little bit. So
Yeah.
I had a lot of struggles there. Big time in college. I somehow got through. I don't know how. I mean, there's only so much information you can retain with one bloodshot eye and a head full of acid, but somehow I got through and I graduated, which is if you don't believe in miracles, I got through college.
Right.
But
Yeah. I
so
feel you on that one.
shortly after that, I went to California. So I wanted to be in comedy because I've always enjoyed making people laugh. That's one of those attention things that's like makes me
Yep.
feel good.
There's a
So
lot of people that are very attention starved, and hanging out with a lot of people that are attention starved can really extrapolate along those lines of already with having an addictive personality and already dabbling into other kinds of drugs and alcohol and all that. And so did you find that happen possibly when you got into comedy down there?
Oh yeah. And so I would go in, I do like open mics. But the thing with stand-up comedy is you need to be standing up. And my drug habit was having none of that. Like I was a mess. I was just a mess. Like I would, Xanax was probably my favorite drug, but then I'd mix that with, like opiates and like like the nods and like how do you can't function in life like that. So even though like I had a couple times where it was like I did well, but then I'd show up and I'd just be a wreck. um so I got actually tried out for the Groundlings Theater, which is a
Oh
very
shit.
famous
Yeah.
theater group. Will Ferrell, probably the most famous, Phil Hartman, Pee Wee Herman, they really have
There's a long list.
yeah, there really is. So I did get accepted by the
Shit.
Groundlings to start there. They have a 4-level group before you're actually on stage. But the first they have to even accept you in to like start at level 1. So I got accepted in,
What
but
was
shortly
your
after that I had an overdose and had to go to rehab. So um that happened. It was
what happened
it
there?
was a really tough time at that time for sure.
What happened with that? How'd you overdose?
So it just I was taken to the hospital because I was kind of like I was just in and out of kind of consciousness, and my friend like was afraid. So it wasn't like I had to be revived or anything. It was just kind of like as a safety precaution. I've never gone completely like dead, thankfully, in my life, but I've had a couple times where I've definitely taken too much and it was kind of scary. um like in LA, like I would do like cocaine and then like a downer like Xanax or heroin, and this doing that is like being in your car and stepping on the gas and the brake at the same time. Like it's
Right.
not a good thing.
That's what's killed plenty of people, you know, in
Yeah,
entertainment, the old speedball
yeah.
of sorts. And so, uh, side note, real quick, back to what was your audition for the Groundlings before we get to the other part of that question?
Yeah, so it was just improv. It was all improv, which I do. I'm not great at improv, I would say. I think I'm better like kind of with scripted stuff. But I guess I was good enough. I don't remember exactly this scenario. I think it was like a father-daughter thing. I don't remember the exact kind of scenario it was, but they just kind of had you get up there and just there's no real it's just like, okay, go. All right.
And,
So
yeah.
yeah, that's what it was.
And so they said you got it, and then was that like a celebration kind of a thing, or just like a regular night, and you just too much,
Hmm.
and then just you're
Yeah, it
like,
was
okay,
bad.
well,
I had to go to rehab. I couldn't function. So I couldn't take the steps and actually get into the program and do all that because this happened so quickly after that happened. So I never even got a chance to get in or do anything with it.
so did you go right to rehab, or did you go back out for a little bit after you OD'd?
No, I
Or
pretty much went right to rehab after that in California. Yeah, and that was my first time. I've been a few times since then. I mean, this was like 2000. I was really struggling there too because I moved there right before the crash of '08. So like
okay,
getting a job, like I just getting a job there was a pain, and I really wasn't functional either. But like there really weren't jobs available. Thankfully for my mother, like she kept a roof over my head. Otherwise, I would have just been homeless. Which I've spent nights, kind of on park benches and homeless because after rehab, I would go to these halfway houses,
yeah,
and I was still kind of stuck in my addiction. So I'd get kicked out of the halfway house and then be too embarrassed to call my mom for money because I was broke.
right.
So I would just stick it out, and just find places to sleep, for a week until I would gather up the courage to say, okay, Mom, I need help. So After a couple of those instances, it was time to come back home and try a different rehab and just move back home and have my mother watch me for a little bit. So
And that was back in Arizona.
yeah.
And so, uh, and then what was that like? What was that like then going into rehab and then a rehab where you think that it can work? Because I mean, it's easy to go in and be like, yeah, well, I just got to do this until I'm good enough, and then knowing no matter, I mean, I don't know, not knowing that fully that it's just going to go right back to what it was. But it's easy to look back 20 years later and be like, okay, 15, 20 years later and be like, okay, yeah, well, yeah, it'll probably didn't think that it was going to take the first time or um I mean, did you have the thought that it's like, okay, it's gonna be okay this time when I go, or were you just like, I hope?
I was very hopeful, certainly, and I was open to new things. This was more of a kind of a Christian based rehab, so it was like let's try something different. So and in there, like I just became open to a higher power, right? Like because like my whole life is kind of agnostic, like not atheist, and I just didn't know.
Yeah,
But that was my first experience with kind of that chi energy that like because like they I was sitting in a kind of prayer circle and I was just like, guys, I need help. I don't know what to do. Like, help me out. And they kind of prayed for me and, like, and, brought Jesus into my life. And then like all of a sudden this energy kind of took over me. And something did change. I was sober for 7 years, at that time. So something really did change. And I started going to the AA meetings. I also started going to church, more often, but it was in church that like over time I just kind of got uneasy with trying to push my faith on other people, and like I really started questioning things. I was kind of like this whole Bible thing, like, well, who wrote this? How do we know that every word of this is true? I don't know that every word of this is true. Like some of this doesn't sound right. Like I don't think God is that vengeful. I don't think, you know, God God gets disappointed in us, like, and how would he just like he can't treat us, I don't think he treats his children that way to send them to hell if we are disobedient. I mean, you know, what parent, locks their kid in the closet if they do something wrong forever? Like I don't see that as realistic. So I knew God was there. I knew it was a part of my life, but I was like, I just didn't, it just wasn't clicking with me. But shortly after that, I've just, in the last 4 or 5 years, like I just have experienced trauma after trauma. Every year I've like had just like a major trauma happen. So it's kind of brought me to my knees to where it's like, you know, what do I do? And that's where these crazy experiences in meditation and the whole sorcery thing came to be. So like it was after, I had my mother die in 2019. My sister, we had COVID hit, and then my sister died shortly after that. Um, right after that, I was at my drug dealer's house at the time, and I was attacked by an Alaskan Malamute, which is not a small dog. It's a huge dog, and it ripped into my face. It narrowly missed my eye, like it hit right here. So I thank God that I'm not blind. It hit the bite hit here. You can see the scar. His tooth went in and just ripped all the way up.
holy
So
shit.
yeah, it just, I mean, you want to talk about a wake up call. You're at your drug dealer's house and that happens. It's like, get your
Yeah.
shit together, bro.
So,
So
what happened at that moment?
it was
Right after you have your fucking face, whatever, mauled. I mean, what's going through your head?
sheer panic. I mean, just sheer panic. Like, thankfully, it stopped. Because it was a dog I had known. Like, I didn't think it would attack me, but I kind of got bent down to pet it, and that's when it just poof. So it was just a complete shock. I went into to his room, because he just said come in. He wasn't there, probably nodding out or whatever. But and he was of no help because he was useless. So I had to
Right.
drive myself to the hospital,
Holy shit.
which I did. But like, just like I just had this thing against my face as I'm driving to the hospital, and I just walk in and like, and it's kind of dead there because like this is like late 2020, you know, like this was probably November 2020, and like so COVID is still very real, and there's not a lot of people in there, and everyone's, you know, kind of wary, and I'm just like walking with this like huge rag on my face, which is the blood everywhere, just like I need help. And like there, but yeah, it's they stitched me up, and you know, like it just took some healing.
Tell you to put on a mask, and you say, "No, I can't put on a mask because
My face is falling off.
I yeah." Holy shit. And so, I mean, so then what happens? So do they go to stitch you up, and then are you thinking like, was that then where you're like, okay, now I gotta fucking shape up, or
Yeah,
was it
no,
still
it
like,
was, and it still took, like after that, I was still like, you know, like recovering, and I was still doing drugs at the time because I was just in a horrible, miserable place. But about a month goes by, and like I'm done. I need help. So I contacted my dad, who knew this guy, who kind of is familiar with the shamanistic arts. And he came in and you know, started, you know, talking to me about, you know, like spirituality, and you know, like, you know, you don't have to, you know, be focused on, you know, you can be kind of a free agent, and you know, like all this stuff. And so, and then he introduced me to meditations, and he started doing these kind of guided meditations with me. And that's really what helped me. And then it was shortly after that that like well, it was a few months after that that I was just focused on like getting better and just meditating and like getting rid of these like negative energies. And all of a sudden one day, like I felt like I'd been in an airplane mode my whole life, and it was like all of a sudden this one meditation, it was like it switched off. And it was like I've had many panic attacks in my life, and this was like a bliss attack. And it was just this joy and this amazing feeling, and it just opened me up, and I all of a sudden started getting all these downloads and all these things, and you know, just like all this stuff started coming to me. And so it's just like a phone and airplane mode, you know, like a phone and airplane mode, you know, I think we can all agree it's not living up to its full potential, right?
right,
So that's, and like after that is like kind of where this whole thing started. And it's been a, you know, about a year and a half or so that like it's really started coming together, and like I've been getting kind of directions from source to do certain things and write this book and start helping people, and like, you know, like get out there, because nothing gets me higher than helping someone. It's exactly the same feeling I got when I'd be the center of attention, maybe even better. So, and it, you know, like it's almost for selfish reasons. It's just like, you know, like let me help you so it'll help me, you know, like it's, you know, it's not completely altruistic. It's just I just enjoy seeing people get better.
right. And I mean that's kind of how it is with me with hypnosis. It's, you know, like it's the same, you know, guided meditation, hypnosis, just different word for it. It's same thing. And I mean, yeah, I mean it's back to that, hey, look what I can do. Back to that, you know, stand-up comedy thing, and without having to go hang around a bunch of people that are, well, I mean, because I mean I feel like I was part of that too, like that same sort of thing, like just it's not a good group of people to be hanging around, that much people with that kind of energy. Just it's draining. And like, and then also, you know, being at most comedy shows are at bars or, you know, places that um you know, everyone, and then afterwards everyone's just getting shit house. And it's nice to not have to have that part of it and still be able to find something that can take its place in a better way. And I mean, it was hard after that, like after, you know, not doing that, or, you know, doing other shit that I did where I'd end up being center of attention. You know, it's nice to have something that's positive. I mean, I wish I would have not had been, I don't know, like in my mid 30s or so when I finally got there. And I wish it would have been, you know, 10, 15 years late earlier. But I wouldn't have had those same experiences I had that, you know, made me who I am. And I wouldn't have had those fuck ups that I've had that have made me who I am. Or I don't think I would have had the same appreciation of it, being able to have that when I was anyone in those ages. And is that something that like kind of you experienced?
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. And it's probably more like late 30s for me. I mean, this really like it clicked in my early 30s, and like I was like physically sober, but I wasn't emotionally sober. Like I still like would, I would still kind of do things that, weren't, like uh, I would kind of switched addictions and, like focused more on womanizing and or exercise, and like I'd find other things because I wasn't really emotionally sober. I was just not drinking and using, which was more manageable, but I didn't feel any different. So like, and it's
Right.
just recently that like I've actually feel different. And that's what's so exciting about this whole thing, and like doing the writing and like coming up with this whole program and everything. It's been a real treat.
So when you're doing your writing, so you be in early 40s now, when you're doing writing, are you, I mean, do you have a notebook, sticky notes? Do you have a journal? Do you use your phone, a computer? Do you go with a typewriter? Do you have a stone and chisel? Or does it switch up with what you do? Do you have a special pen?
So when stuff comes to me, like I'm not always around, I put it on my phone. And then when I've put together the book, which it's probably like close to 90%, it's almost done, which is crazy. I've never written a book before, obviously. But I'm excited about it. But yeah, it's all on the computer here. It's on my laptop that I've got going on here. So but yeah, whenever something comes to me, it goes in my phone so I don't forget it.
Right. That's easy to be like, oh man, I'll never forget that. I'm not, or that
5
part's
minutes
gonna
later,
be good,
gone.
and I don't know what that was. Yeah. Ah, way too many of those to learn that lesson of what could have been. But um, so then your book. So then what's your book about then? Is it like a autobiography, or is it like a more of a guide to life, or something
Yeah,
different?
it's kind of a system I've come up with that helped me. So I was introduced to The Secret a long time ago, and you can have a positive thought or affirmation, but if you're not feeling the right feelings, it's not going to get past the brainstem. So the whole thing is kind of creating that mind heart coherence. So you're pairing a clear intention with an elevated emotion, like joy, gratitude, serenity, whatever it is. And I have always struggled with that elevated emotion part. Like I can think good thoughts, but if I'm not feeling the right thing, it's when you're tuning in, it's called manifestation, because it's like you're tuning into a station, right? Like you grew up in the
Right.
90s, so those little box radios, that the little black box radios, so they don't even have like a digital dial, so you don't you have the wheel turning thing, so
Yeah.
you have to turn the wheel and like guess where it's at, and then not only that, you have to turn the antenna to the right, like here it's not good, here, right there, that's it.
Yeah.
So like like consider your thoughts like tuning in here, and then the antenna is kind of like the feelings, and you have to tune in. So this program I've created, it's called Sourcery. And the book is called Sourcery 101. And I've created 13 rungs for higher elevation of consciousness. So it's like climbing a ladder. And each rung kind of like is equally as important. But it's creating, the whole thing was just like, well, if you're trying to manifest, do you feel worthy of your manifestation? And I'd be like, I don't, I don't even know what that feels like. I felt unworthy my whole life. And it's like, how do you feel worthy? Like, I understand manifesting and how it works, but I need someone to explain to me how to feel worthy, because I don't know how to do that. So this book is a step-by-step process of creating worthiness in yourself, because I know there's got to be more people out there that have a hard time. They want stuff in their life, but they're not sending out that signal. Like once you get the mind and the heart, connected, it's like a beacon to the universe. And like it'll come in, but you have to have everything lined up, otherwise it just doesn't work. So this book is about creating worthiness. It's about feeling good about yourself. And it's kind of a step by step, a rung by rung process. But I spell sorcery. You can leave your wizard robe and your magic wand in the closet, because it's not that. It's source energy. So I spell it SOUCERY.
Okay.
Because we're using source energy to help create better feelings and manifest things in your life. But I'm not focused on like creating tons of wealth and stuff. For me, it's more the feeling and feeling good, but things like that can fall in line very easily. But you first have to feel good and get rid of the negative energy for that to even happen.
Right. And then, so for each rung, then do you have to get through rung 1 to get to rung 2, get through rung 2 to get to rung 3? So is it like with the AA and with the 12 step
12
and
steps.
or
Yeah, no, it's
whatever?
not
So
really in
this,
order.
okay.
Yeah, it's just they're all kind of equally as important. I mean, they're in a numerical order, but other than the last one, which is similar to the step 12, which is kind of like passed along, teach it to other people so it gets ingrained in you and helps other people. That's kind of like the 13th one. And I picked the number 13 because it's in tarot, it's the number for transformation. But transformation can be a really difficult process. You can ask any werewolf. So it's not an easy process, but man, when you get at it and work at it and like do the things that I've done, like I just didn't have a choice. I mean, I was waking up suicidal every day. I never had any plans, but I just wanted to get hit by a bus so that like people wouldn't remember me as a quitter. But I just didn't want to live my life like that. So I just started coming up with this process and like learning. I'm an extremely damaged human who finds healing in learning and helping others. That's who I am.
Yeah. Side note again, before we go back into this, with werewolves. So, the movie Teen Wolf with Michael J. Fox. So there was a Teen Wolf 2, with Justin Bateman playing the Teen Wolf. And
No,
yeah, yeah, and it's crazy how similar they looked. Um, I mean, if you go back, and then later on in Arrested Development, his character's name was Michael, which
Mhm.
was there was always a lot of, if you watch Arrested Development, a lot of weird little jokes about stuff they did previously to the characters, like, or each of the individual actors. And I don't know if that was part of it or if it was part of the Godfather part of it, but yeah, it's weird watching them two together as young adults. I guess they probably weren't young adults, or I guess they're young adults. They weren't like
Yeah.
teenagers, um but so back to this. So I mean, so you said, I mean, you were feeling suicidal, and so I mean, was that like, kind of pushing you, or would that push you when you were getting those thoughts to want to do more, or would that sort of slow you down and kind of make you reassess everything, and everything just sort of stops at that point? And did you get to a point when you're able to work work with that power of having such a strong feeling to turn that into a positive?
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say it's like harnessing. I have horrible like anxiety and like depression. It's all tied in, anxiety, depression. So it's like it's harnessing those feelings and doing stuff aside from just killing them, like killing them with bottle or pills or whatever it may be.
Right.
I find that getting stuff done and learning and writing and like doing positive things, working out, like that helps even more than those things. And at the end of the day, I want to wake up tomorrow and be proud of the person I was today. So I try to keep that in mind when I'm doing things. But it is a matter of, it helps my anxiety to get stuff done, to help people, to do positive things. So it's like taking that and like writing it. It really is. So it's been very cool to know that there is a reprieve to this. There is hope. There is a solution that doesn't involve doctors. For anything chronic, the medical community is amazing. I wouldn't have a face today without them. But the fact is they just don't understand chronic disease, and that it's the disease in the body, the disease in the mind is caused by a dis-ease in the soul, right? Like, I mean, that's the core of it. And if you can get to the core of it, your disease can heal on its own, you know.
Right. And so then what would, I mean, breaking it down to dis-ease, and what would the opposite of that be, of dis-ease? What I mean, would it just be ease, or I
Yeah, ease,
mean,
serenity. In the program, it's serenity, it's a peace, it's just
yeah,
it's a joy. And I kind of write about this in my book, the difference between kind of happiness and joy. Like happiness can be found in drugs, sex, cheeseburger, whatever it may be. There's a lot of happiness chasers out there that are kind of miserable until they're doing their thing, and it may not be something simply destructive, could be video games, could be exercise, but like they're not happy unless they're doing their thing. Joy, on the other hand, is kind of this serenity, that's what I chase, is like this ease. Everything's okay, like you don't have to be, like you can be joyful without having to do something on the exterior. Like you can work on your interior without having all the stimuli out there.
right. And so again, with the book, so is the book, do you have a publisher? Are you going self-publish? Are you doing the
Yeah,
Amazon
self-publishing.
KDP?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
Uh,
I mean I've hired on Andrea, who was on a couple weeks ago with you. She has a self-publishing. She's helped me with create the website. I actually had gotten off of, so I deleted all my social media because I just needed a clean slate. So I had deleted all my social media about 18 months ago. So we're restarting everything. I think I have one follower. I mean, we just launched it last week, the website and the Facebook and stuff. So like it's just in its infancy. And it'll be interesting to get back on there because I've been off social media for 18 months now. So I lost a lot of so I'm really starting fresh and starting all over. So
yeah, and it's kind of nice. And I mean, I kind of did the same thing like a few years back. Like I don't on social media, like I don't know. I post stuff, but I don't scroll, or
intake as much. Yeah.
yeah, I got rid of all that when, because I mean, like I said, like anything, like being in entertainment, and that like the outskirts of entertainment, seeing a bunch of people that are very opinionated about certain things going on the last 3 years, and I was just like, nope, I don't want to deal with any of this shit. Like I just unfollowed everything. Like the only things that I I see right now are stuff that's for sale. Um, and then I have a page that I look at. It's all just Mike Judge stuff. The guy who does like Beavis and Butthead and
Oh,
stuff.
I
And
know.
that's okay. That's my whole social media. Everything else is just I don't know. And it's nice not to know. Like people will, if anything like really comes up, I have my one friend who's slightly more invested in social media than I am, but barely. He'll tell me what's going on. But then it's ridiculous, like shit, like if someone dies, like it became a thing. Like if people die and like you don't know until there's like 18 people writing RIP Jimmy, like, well, what the fuck happened to Jimmy? Why what is Jimmy really dead? And then like, okay, well, but then it's like, well, did I, really need to know? Like I found out from like my sister would call me like when my best friend died, and I was like, I wouldn't have known it because then there's also with that too, with like with the the drug life and stuff, like you don't know, you don't have mutual friends anymore. Like there's only certain people really who I don't know. Like I have some friends like I would never know if they died. Like I know them, but I don't know anyone else who knows them, and like I'm not on them with social media. Like, and I've had to kind of like accept that with some of my friends, just like that's if they're dead, I'm not gonna really know until someone tells me. And that was kind of a hard pill to swallow, but I don't know. I mean, it's kind of life. But then without social media, I wouldn't have known anyways. So, but basically, long story short, I don't really. I wish I had somebody that would do social media, and that's why there's AI. And that was the next thing I was going to get into with that. So with AI, I make all kinds of shit. This show could be done better by AI, but I'm still doing it. And then making music, same thing. AI can do it better than I can. Writing jokes, taking my jokes I had from before, give me 10 new punchlines. Fuck, that's funnier than what I would have come up with. And it's it's frustrating. And so where are you with AI with writing? Has that come into anything, or coming up with like programs, or like you were saying, stuff of that nature, or work books or things of that nature, just being able to put it into AI and have it pop something out. Or I don't know, like I made a book on Amazon, uh, a children's book. I forgot what it's called. Something about teaching kids not to piss in a public pool. And I mean, got to use AI on that. And I don't know. I'm so back and forth because like all this stuff I know it can do better than I can, but then I know it's me, but it's not me. And yeah, I mean, I'm still doing the show. I could go and just pay a certain amount of money and the show's done, and I just let it run infinitely forever. But I still enjoy talking to people. Is that, I mean, so like where are you with AI? I like to ask my author guess this one, and I try not to make it because I feel like kind of a dick saying it, but like it's something like this is coming out, and like I mean, I feel it in so many different places with stuff that I do, or even like writing scripts for hypnosis. I could write all these hypnosis scripts and have it done in fucking 5 minutes. Have a whole thing. So is this anything you're coming across or thinking about, or are you just like, I'm staying the fuck away from it?
Yeah, it's just like anything. It can be used for good and it can be used for bad. And like if you're just using it to, like I'm not that tech savvy, honestly. Like I wouldn't even know how to like this. I would call this book a co-creation, certainly, because like it's not all me, right? Big
Yeah,
guns upstairs. But it's like I mean, I guess it can be used in a pinch, but I don't even know how to approach it. So certainly there was no AI involved in this book at all. But I mean, it's going to be real easy to just let that take over, and then what happens to us, and then
right,
like like
right.
if you
And
don't, it's one of those things. If you don't use it, you lose it. So if we're not using our brains and we're just letting AI take over, it's just gonna turn into mush. So
yeah,
like I think it can be, used in a good way, but I can also be absolutely abused. I mean, just like drugs. I mean,
yep,
drugs are not inherently bad. It's the obsession we get over them that becomes an issue. Like I would never say let's eliminate opiates because good Lord, in hospitals and people that are struggling and like, we need those in the
yeah,
short term. It's just doctors were prescribing them for long-term use, which should never happen. They were being abused. So like it is not inherently one thing. It's just that it's the attachment we get to these things. So like it's going to be a matter of responsibility for each and every one of us for sure.
yeah. And I mean, I think there's a good and bad in everything. And I mean, if something is that bad, it can also be that good.
Yeah.
Um, and like I tell people that with hypnosis, like there's mind control and shit like that. There's subliminal messaging, CIA operated shit. It's terrible. But with that, like how much good there is, like if you can do the exact opposite, if you can take that bad and use it for good. And I mean, I think that's also something with being creative. Like if you've gone through a bunch that's going to make you learn a lot and maybe was shitty at the time is going to be able to be so much better and so helpful for so many people going on into the future, because if it's that bad, it's got to be equally that good.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
I'm
so
just like social media you're talking about. Like it's,
yeah,
it can be used for good, but I wasn't using it for that. But, I found once I deleted all that and I stopped following people, it's like, they put blinders on a horse because they run a better race,
right,
like it's the same thing,
yeah, that's kind of what I'm feeling like. And so so where can people find you and get their blinders on to check your stuff out?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. So I have a website, JLS Sourcery. Make sure you spell it with a U, Soucery, because you might end up in a site that sells cauldrons and rat tails. So,
oh, okay.
yeah, Soucri. So JLS, my initials. And then yeah, we just launched the Facebook page. It's JustinLShaw. I think you have the I just was sent the website, but I have a page on there. Certainly go on there and like it, because like I said, we just did it last week, and I think I have one or two people on there. So I haven't even gotten a chance to really send it out to family yet. So I'm on there. Those are the two main ones. There's free videos on the website that I kind of go over the first couple rungs. And then we'll be doing stuff on YouTube and stuff. Again, I'm just getting started. Like I just started writing this in July, and I hired someone on to help me with, like I said, I'm not tech savvy, so she's helping me out with all the background stuff. But yeah, you can, and if you just go to the website, it should have a link right over to the Facebook page as well. But it's JustinLShaw, and then Sourcery, so
Okay.
JLSSourcery.com.
I one more question. So you were in Arizona, back to the basketball and stuff. Danny Ainge, was there a Danny Ainge hat club by you? Was that a thing? Do you remember that? Were you
Oh my
part of
God,
the
yes. Yeah, it was
you
in
part of that?
Scottsdale Fashion Square.
Okay, yeah, dude, I had one of those in Lake Oswego, Oregon. I was part of it, and you when you sign up, you get a hat. I
Mhm.
remember I had a Cincinnati Reds hat, and it was like there was a drawstring, and there was like a little one of those push down clips that you put on a drawstring, and
Yeah.
then it would be in the back. So there's these two little things like two little rat tails hanging out the back.
Oh my
But
gosh. The ADHD.
yeah, Danny Ainge, man. Yeah, I
That
don't
brings
know.
me
It was
back, man. I can't believe I
yeah.
haven't thought about that in like 20 years. That's great.
I don't think I had either, and it just was like, oh man, because there's not a lot of people, yeah, I think who would remember that. So glad, yeah, we
Definitely
got to
do.
bring that up. And yeah, so Justin, man, good talking with you. I'm glad we got to meet and get to have your first podcast. I made sure I didn't say that at the beginning, so it wasn't like someone coming up on to do a stand up and it's like, this is their first time. And you're like, oh shit, I'm just gonna fucking turn this off right now. So I'm gonna make
Yeah,
sure
no,
I
that's
said it
yeah.
at the
I was
end.
yeah, no, like yeah, it's thank you. So
Yeah,
hopefully it went well. Hopefully I've got many
yeah,
more in me. But yeah, thank you
yeah,
for having me on my
yeah.
first one and
Bring it back in a
come
few
and join me on
months.
my journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I'll get you back and we'll like in February, March or something. All right.
Sure, you bet.
Cool. All right. Well, have a great day, man.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
you bet. All right. That's JustinLShaw. So I'll put all his information down here in the stuff in the internet. In the internet. I'll put it in the notes so you can find him, find stuff. I'm gonna get these lights fixed. I still feel like the lights aren't quite right in here. And I need to get rid of this shit so you guys can see. I have some wrestling gear I never wore in there. If you can see that, I have green screen, bunch of socks. I got where did I get that? I got a Mountie outfit somewhere. I think when I was in Minnesota. I don't know why. I feel like someone's like, you gotta get this. You gotta buy this. Um, Shit, I wish I remember that story. But I have a Mountie outfit, so maybe if I go up and work in Canada again, maybe I can do that. But you guys, thank you so much for being here on the Rusty Diamond Podcast Network. And that is the show. Man. Boom.
It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.